After inheriting the godly king's legacy, Luo Feng realized that sitting mountain guest had never entered the world of Jin and had never asked about it. Unlike other powerful beings in Universe Ocean, which explained how he could create the 9-volume manual and Star Tower despite being only a true god, and led Luo Feng to suspect that his teacher had a deep connection to Jin country, possibly having inherited a legacy from the godly king of Jin or one of his supreme subordinates. Luo Feng then asked about the 3 supreme beings he was tasked to eliminate. And the godly king revealed they were the rulers of Shi country. A great power likely destroyed long ago. Though he believed those rulers still lived and advised Luo Feng not to focus on finding them yet, as greater strength would naturally uncover more secrets. The godly king then summoned wuxia god, a beast-type true god machine usable by a single person. A top-tiered treasure capable of fully amplifying its owner's power at the cost of immense energy consumption. And since Luo Feng had completed the sealing task, the 30 million military credits reward was automatically exchanged for this machine, making it his. Recognizing the growing chaos in Universe Ocean and the mysteries of the lands of Extremis, Luo Feng understood the need to grow stronger and planned to exchange many collected machine treasures and true god armors for military credits and resources for humanity. After imprinting his lifemark, wuxia god merged with his body and transformed him into a monkey-like humanoid form retaining his face. And he discovered its engravings in operation were far more complex than Bib Bird and Golden Claw God, with the godly king explaining it had 3 operational levels, the highest requiring true god comprehension. The godly king instructed Luo Feng to keep it hidden, revealing it had merely been bait for the sealing task and was insignificant to him. Then gifted Luo Feng a vast inheritance crystal containing numerous powerful techniques gathered from enemies and subordinates, intended to guide him toward becoming a godly king. Finally, Luo Feng was granted authority over the world of Jin, gaining a status comparable to the 4 generals and becoming the most important figure there, able to wield the strength of the entire world to suppress eternal true gods and even kill void space true gods within it, though warned not to abuse this power. Understanding these were the godly king's final hopes, Luo Feng accepted them before being transported out of wuxia tower by a pillar of light. And after clearing the 8th floor, the sealing task disappeared, confirming to the 4 leaders of godly King Valley that someone had reached the top, prompting them to rush to the entrance where they later witnessed Luo Feng emerge, shocking the guards since no one had ever exited through the front gate. The leaders revealed they had waited countless years under the godly king's orders for such a genius and welcomed Luo Feng into the Silver Palace, ordering secrecy, where they expressed immense relief and stated they had finally fulfilled their mission, informing him the 4 generals would soon arrive. When the generals entered, their suppressed yet overwhelming presence filled the palace as they warmly greeted Luo Feng and explained they too had searched endlessly for someone capable of reaching the summit, valuing this mission above even their cultivation and lives, treating Luo Feng as an invaluable successor and offering protection, resources, and full support. After half a day, Luo Feng left the valley, with leaders and generals even wishing to escort him personally. Meanwhile, after mastering the Na Yin technique, his remote ocean and Mosha bodies regained awareness, and he communicated with Primal Chaos City leader and True Yan Knight while concealing key secrets. Later reflecting on rewarding True Yan Knight and expressing gratitude toward all his teachers while resolving to care more for his family and Earthlings. On the journey back to the East Army, Luo Feng studied wuxia god, learning its 3 levels, with the first already surpassing Golden Claw God and Bib Bird and the third exceeding many void space true god machines. And after nearly a day he mastered its operation, transforming into a black armored monkey-like form with a tail and, by activating it alongside the 2nd volume of Duan Mie, generating a virtual core from its 16 cores to unleash immense power, achieving incredible speed and leaving millions of afterimages, concluding it far surpassed other machines and that even Universe Supreme Masters could not rival him through treasures alone, though its massive energy consumption meant he could not sustain it long even with his vast divine body. Explaining the godly king's warning, after 3 months of travel, Luo Feng returned to the East Army, and news of warrior Milky Way's return spread rapidly through the Python River Army, where his reputation had grown so great that many warriors sought to befriend him, believing he had the potential to become a void space true god. A red-faced warrior informed his friend Cheng Mu from the Swan Queen army that Milky Way had returned. Cheng Mu, a double-faced, four-armed warrior, was delighted because he had long wanted to meet Luo Feng. At the same time in the Purple Moon Holy Land universe, the universe masters serving under Purple Moon Ancestor reported that Milky Way had returned to the East Army camp. Purple Moon Ancestor immediately ordered preparations to eliminate Luo Feng and assigned Cheng Mu to execute the plan. He believed that even though Luo Feng possessed the inheritance of Duan River, a dead genius was worthless. Within the world of Jin, Cheng Mu felt immense pressure. He had become fascinated by the world of Jin and did not want to leave. But carrying out the mission would permanently prevent him from returning. Nevertheless, he chose to proceed with the plan, sacrificing his future in the world of Jin to kill Luo Feng. Cheng Mu went to the headquarters of the Swan Queen army. The army was divided into lawmasters and true gods, and its commander was the powerful Swan Queen, a void space true god who had led the army for a very long time. After gaining permission to enter, Cheng Mu met the legendary Swan Queen, a beautiful nine-tailed commander. He reported an urgent secret, claiming that Milky Way was actually an outsider from another world who had infiltrated the world of Jin. Swan Queen was immediately alarmed because all natives of the world of Jin were absolutely loyal to it and hostile toward outsiders. However, she demanded evidence. Cheng Mu could only insist that he had witnessed it himself and urged her to use illusion techniques on Milky Way to force the truth out of him. Swan Queen remained unconvinced and ordered him to leave, intending to investigate later. Desperate to make his accusation believable, Cheng Mu repeatedly swore that everything he said was true and declared that he was willing to die to prove it. Finally, he self-destructed in front of Swan Queen, completely annihilating himself. Witnessing his sacrifice, Swan Queen was shocked. She believed Cheng Mu had displayed extraordinary loyalty and integrity. Although she had initially doubted him, his willingness to die for his claim made her seriously consider the possibility that an outsider had indeed infiltrated the world of Jin. Realizing the matter might be genuine, Swan Queen immediately disappeared to investigate the situation herself. Outside the Python River Army, two soldiers noticed a rainbow-like green light streaking across the sky and immediately recognized it as Commander Swan Queen arriving. Realizing that Cheng Mu's report had reached her, they quickly informed their ancestor. In the Purple Moon Holy Land, Purple Moon Ancestor waited confidently for Luo Feng's death. He believed Swan Queen, one of the strongest commanders among the void space true gods and a master of illusion techniques, could easily expose Luo Feng's identity as an outsider. Once Luo Feng's true origin was discovered, his soul would be destroyed permanently. Purple Moon Ancestor considered Luo Feng a major threat because he possessed the inheritance of Duan River. Within the world of Jin, Swan Queen's rainbow light drew immediate attention from guards and soldiers, who all recognized her status. Commanders in the special armies held immense authority and were feared throughout the military. After arriving, Swan Queen met Fire Polishing Wu, the commander of the Python River Army. Although they were both highly respected void space true gods, Fire Polishing Wu joked about her rare visits, recalling that she had previously come only to congratulate him on becoming a commander and to punish some of his soldiers. Swan Queen explained Cheng Mu's report that a creature from the outside world had infiltrated the world of Jin. At first she had dismissed the claim, but Cheng Mu had committed suicide to prove his sincerity and concern for the world of Jin. Realizing the seriousness of the matter, Fire Polishing Wu agreed that it required immediate investigation. Since the suspect was Milky Way, a soldier under his command, he decided to locate him personally and invited Swan Queen to accompany him. Using his authority as commander, Fire Polishing Wu quickly found Luo Feng's island. At that time, Luo Feng appeared relaxed, sitting on the roof of his stone house and drinking grape wine. In reality, his attention was focused on studying the third level of Shi Wu Wang through his Mosha body. Having already created the top-tier level 7 blade technique 9 days path during the Wu Qi Tower mission, he believed he now had the foundation to comprehend the next stage of Shi Wu Wang. He reflected on the first two levels, Chaos Time and Space and Golden Country. While considering the mysteries of the third level, he also noted that Shi Wu Wang functioned as a support-type treasure and could be used together with Wu Qi God. Unlike certain machine-type treasures that conflicted with armor, suddenly, empowered by the strength of a world, granted by His Majesty the Godly King, Luo Feng sensed two immensely powerful presences approaching. Looking up, he saw Swan Queen and Fire Polishing Wu descending from the sky. Their gazes were intimidating, and with a single thought they created a void space that sealed off the entire area around the island. Luo Feng immediately suspected that the two visitors were commanders and likely void space true gods. Although the pressure they released was overwhelming enough to force ordinary beings to kneel, Luo Feng's powerful will allowed him to remain calm. Unlike normal soldiers who would be terrified before commanders, Luo Feng's unique status in the world of Jin meant he did not instinctively revere them. The two commanders landed on the island and examined him. Swan Queen was displeased by Luo Feng's lack of respect and coldly remarked that Fire Polishing Wu's soldiers showed no reverence toward two commanders. Fire Polishing Wu was also irritated and sternly shouted at Luo Feng, demanding to know whether he had forgotten the proper way to greet commanders. His thunderous voice echoed directly in Luo Feng's ears. After completing the sealing task, Luo Feng was secretly recognized and sealed by the world of Jin, a status known only to a few high-ranking figures. Although General Harmonious Snow offered to publicize his identity so all four armies would honor him, Luo Feng declined, preferring to remain low profile since he was only a temporary visitor to the world of Jin. Unaware of his true status, Commanders Swan Queen and Fire Polishing Wu viewed Luo Feng as an arrogant lawmaster. Already suspicious of him, they decided to act. Swan Queen believed he might be a life form from the outside world and launched a powerful illusion attack to capture him. The attack instantly reached Luo Feng, but his authority over the world of Jin's strength of a world allowed him to detect and destroy it. Furious at being attacked without cause, he abandoned any intention of peaceful discussion. Using the world's power, he created a gigantic palm that crushed both commanders into the ground before binding them with air-formed ropes. Completely helpless, Swan Queen and Fire Polishing Wu concluded that Luo Feng must actually be an eternal true god in disguise, possibly an infiltrator from the outside world. While stalling for time, the commanders secretly contacted East Army General Harmonious Snow. Luo Feng questioned them about their actions, but before they answered, Harmonious Snow arrived through a void space portal. Expecting the general to arrest Luo Feng, Swan Queen and Fire Polishing Wu warned him that Milky Way was likely a spy from the outside world. Instead, Harmonious Snow treated Luo Feng with great respect and referred to him as Lord Milky Way. He coldly informed the commanders that they were not qualified to know Luo Feng's identity and should be grateful if Luo Feng chose not to kill them. Terrified, the two commanders realized they had stumbled upon a major secret. Luo Feng and Harmonious Snow spoke privately, and the general again remarked that publicizing Luo Feng's sealed status would have prevented such disrespect. Luo Feng still refused, preferring secrecy. When asked what should be done with the commanders, Luo Feng requested to know why they had targeted him. Harmonious Snow investigated and learned that a soldier named Cheng Mu from Swan Queen's army had claimed Luo Feng was a creature from the outside world and had even committed suicide to support the accusation. Luo Feng immediately recognized Cheng Mu as Cheng Mu Master from Purple Moon Holy Land. Realizing that Purple Moon Holy Land had been trying to expose and eliminate him within the world of Jin, Luo Feng became enraged and resolved to kill every member of Purple Moon Holy Land who had entered the world of Jin. Purple Moon Holy Land had repeatedly targeted Luo Feng, first by interfering in the Primal Universe War to destroy humanity's foundation and later by attempting to kill him in the world of Jin. Reflecting on the incident, Luo Feng realized how fortunate he was to have received a title. Without it, he might have been killed outright by Swan Queen with no chance of revival. Or he would have been forced to self-destruct before succumbing to the illusion. While self-destruction could have preserved his life, it would have cost him priceless treasures such as the Blood Ghost Blade and the Boat of Mausoleum, potentially cutting off access to the inheritance space within it. When General Harmonious Snow asked how he intended to deal with Swan Queen and Fire Polishing Wu, Luo Feng made it clear that he had no intention of taking their lives. However, he was unwilling to let them escape punishment after they had abused their authority and tried to suppress him. Meanwhile, the two commanders lay bound and helpless, anxiously speculating about Luo Feng's true identity. They suspected he might be one of the ancient super experts who had once followed the godly king into battle and could only hope for mercy. Harmonious Snow soon informed them that Luo Feng would spare their lives but would confiscate all their military credits and treasures. The punishment shocked them. After spending countless years accumulating wealth and military merits, losing everything was almost unbearable. Nevertheless, unwilling to die, both commanders surrendered all their possessions, including weapons, armor, sold treasures, automaton treasures, and valuable materials. Once everything had been handed over, they departed in humiliation, stripped of both their status and wealth. Luo Feng collected the treasures, while Harmonious Snow arranged for all their military credits to be transferred to him. Harmonious Snow explained that the punishment was especially severe because true gods of void space no longer received army missions. Unlike lawmasters and ordinary true gods, they could only earn military credits slowly through commanding and training troops. As a result, the wealth and credits they had accumulated represented countless years of effort. Afterward, Luo Feng visited the military point, where a golden light figure greeted him with unusual respect and presented him with a military point ring. This ring granted him special authority, allowing him to access the world of military arms from anywhere within the world of Jin without personally traveling to the military point. Using his new authority, Luo Feng requested information on all lawmasters who had joined the 4 major armies during the previous 3 eras and had their life auras simulated for identification purposes. Reviewing the data at incredible speed, Luo Feng quickly identified 96 Universe Masters from Purple Moon Holy Land serving within the armies. He initially considered eliminating all of them in a single strike before they could react or escape. However, he soon realized that doing so immediately might alert Purple Moon Holy Land and discourage them from sending additional Universe Masters into the world of Jin. Later, Luo Feng met with Primal Chaos City leader and revealed that he possessed the authority to eliminate all Purple Moon Holy Land Universe Masters currently inside the world of Jin. He explained that Purple Moon Holy Land had nearly caused his death and that he intended to take revenge by severely weakening them for several reincarnation eras. Since the 3rd era was approaching and Purple Moon Holy Land would likely send another large batch of Universe Masters into the world of Jin, Luo Feng decided it would be better to wait and strike once all of them had gathered. Primal Chaos City leader strongly supported the plan. He reasoned that Purple Moon Holy Land had used the 1st era to gather information and the 2nd era to deploy only part of its forces. By the 3rd era, a much larger portion of their Universe Masters would have entered the world of Jin, making it the perfect opportunity for a decisive blow. He further proposed extending the plan to include the United Forces Alliance, particularly the Demon Race, Bug Race, Automaton Race, and other long-standing enemies of the Human Alliance. In his view, destroying their elites within the world of Jin would dramatically weaken their overall strength and eventually remove their ability to challenge humanity. Luo Feng learned from Primal Chaos City leader that if the humans could successfully force other peak races to cede territory, humanity would gain many more eras to develop and potentially become the strongest race in the original universe. Since only the original universe could produce Universe Supreme Masters, this period was crucial, and Luo Feng was entrusted with a major responsibility in achieving that goal. Back at Python River Army in the world of Jin, Luo Feng returned to his stone house and activated his military point ring. Inside the military point world, a golden being informed him that he possessed 661.500 military credits and had the highest authority, allowing him to exchange and reclaim valuables without losing credits through unfavorable rates. Luo Feng then submitted the treasures seized from Swan Queen and Fire Polishing Wu, including weapons, armors, machine-type treasures, and recovery treasures. Their combined value amounted to 56.208.000 military credits. Including their stored credits, Luo Feng now possessed more than 60 million military credits. He noted that the 2 commanders had converted most of their military credits into treasures, though the total value was only slightly higher than Wu Qi God's worth. Given access to all available information and treasures, Luo Feng initially planned to obtain large quantities of true God-level palace, armor, weapon, domain type, and soul type treasures. However, he suddenly considered why the universe ocean contained only a limited number of supreme treasures despite countless treasures existing in the world of Jin and the ancient civilization. He speculated that the original mind might have controlled the distribution of treasures. Yet the original mind had deliberately guided universe ocean experts into the world of Jin. This led him to wonder whether a greater threat existed and whether the original mind wanted all races to become stronger in preparation. Out of caution, Luo Feng decided to acquire only 100 true god-level treasures. Spending around 3 million military credits, he planned to distribute some to top human experts, reserve some for the Earthlings, and save a few for his family. As the leader of the Earthlings, he hoped their extraordinary potential would allow them to become a significant portion of humanity's overall strength. He believed their future achievements depended on their own efforts. While he could only provide opportunities and inheritances, Luo Feng chose not to spend his remaining military credits, intending to save them until he better understood any future dangers connected to the original mine's intentions. Meanwhile, in the original universe, remote ocean Luo Feng continued studying Shi Wu Wang. After finally comprehending its highly complex third level, he activated its power. White mist spread outward, forming a vast area covering 120 square light-years and isolating the region from the outside world. By continuously burning divine power through the second volume of Duan Mie, he strengthened and controlled the field, expanding or contracting it at will. Luo Feng realized that the third level granted one-thought void space, a simplified form of void space. Although simplified, it far surpassed the power of Domain's supreme true treasures and greatly enhanced his combat support abilities. Delighted by its strength, he began thinking of a suitable name for the technique. At the same time, on the shore of the lake within Python River Army's camp, two soldiers secretly monitoring the situation grew increasingly frustrated. After waiting 6 days, they had neither seen Swan Queen's characteristic rainbow trail nor received any news of Milky Way's death. Unsure what to do next, they worried because their ancestor was still waiting for their report.